Street photography is one of the most challenging genres of image making, but when done right, it connects subjects with their surroundings in a way that enables you, as the photographer, to tell a story, to send a message, or portray a vision the way you had it envisaged in your mind. But the reality is that street photography can prove challenging. The fast-paced environment mixed with changing light conditions and subjects moving in and out of frame can ramp up the difficulty even further. But sometimes going back to the basics and focusing on the fundamentals of street photography can help, and this is the subject of our film, because I'm going to serve up 6 golden rules of street photography to help you capture better, more natural images that will stop people in their tracks and, of course, tell that all-important story. Heading to quiet, secluded locations won't make for interesting photos, so your best bet is to visit somewhere busy. A city centre location, for example. With more people around, your chances of photo opportunities coming into view will skyrocket. Take this approach even further and visit a busy location when there is some sort of event or festival on, and the increased activity will further boost your chances of a great image. That's not to say good street photography can't be found in quieter places, but if you're pushed for time while out of your camera, getting into town will pay dividends. Today's cameras are equipped with some amazing features and functions, so why not put them to good use while out on the street? Being able to lock focus by touching the LCD panel rather than needing to look through the viewfinder will speed up your workflow, increasing your chances of capturing that split-second moment rather than enduring the regret of missing it. A good example of this timing is evident in this image. I wanted to capture the exact moment the punters crossed so I could capture them making an X with their poles. Another mode I use often when shooting street photography is to use an ND filter, or built-in ND filter if the camera has one, to artificially extend the shutter time without the frame overexposing. This enables me to add blur to the subjects walking through the frame. Now, be careful not to take this approach too far. This frame, for example, shows too much movement, but this one hits the mark perfectly. One common mistake newcomers to street photography make is to focus solely on the subject, and this is a shame because it neglects the rest of the frame. By including more creative framing within your street photography image, you increase the value of the picture and give the viewer more to look at and to consider. So what does this mean in the real world? Well, think about what you could use as a natural border. It could be as simple as raising your camera up to the hole in a wire fence, like this image, taken at a skate park in Manchester. However, as you think more about framing, you'll find creative borders everywhere. This example image shows a fleeting moment, but the clever use of framing the subject within the arch of the iron fencing helps isolate the subject, adding a pro feel to the photo that draws the viewer's eye in and helps the frame ask questions and tell a story. Now, you may think that learning to use light is a technique more associated with landscape photography, but even in the city, the elements can play a huge part in building a successful photo. Firstly, you want to think about the time of day you want to head out with the camera. Shooting during the golden hour will enable you to take advantage of low directional light to achieve techniques such as backlighting. Shooting in midday will help you make the most of harsh shadows in the scene. This image shows how the midday sun creates a pocket of light for my subject to walk into. Then, of course, you can choose to head out with the camera at night, where you can employ shallow depths of field to create bokeh from artificial lighting in the background. Whatever light you encounter, making the most of it will benefit your street photography frame. Street photography is all about showing the everyday in a new light. So part of your job as a successful street shooter is to find new ways to present a subject. A great example of this theory is this frame. This scene in Cambridge will be familiar to all that have visited the city, but by capturing the image as a reflection, it adds something new to the street scene. Another way to add in the unexpected is to mix up your focal lengths. Look out for details that passers-by may easily miss, and use these details to help tell a story. Alternatively, swap out that 50mm lens for a fisheye to make more of the environment, or experiment with the picture styles available on your camera for a more stylized look to the frame. Another misconception about street photography is that images need to be candid, often taken with the subject not knowing they are centre stage in the frame. While this can produce great photos, there is a different school of thought too. By making a connection and asking permission of the subject, the chances are they'll say yes, and you'll be able to not only get closer to them, but maybe even ask them to pose or move to a more convenient or aesthetically pleasing location. Remember, there's no rules in street photography. Do what is needed to create a brilliant image. So let's recap. We've talked about finding the right locations, making the most from the camera features, perfecting your framing, learning to use light, adding in the unexpected, and of course, making a connection with your subject. I hope these 6 tips inspire you to head out to the city and try some street photography with your camera. I'll see you next time.